Just gonna wait for a minute for the recording to officially start. You're all gonna be live on YouTube. Okay. It looks like we're live. It being 2:06 on Wednesday, December 13th, I'll officially call the Greater Boroughs Partnership for Health Advisory Board meeting to order. Thank you everybody for being here. We're gonna do a quick roll call vote. Voting member for Southborough, you could
Heather
just
Ocker,
state your name.
aye.
Okay, Heather Ocker, aye. Thank you. Westboro.
Ray Gothier, aye.
Okay. Anne Marie. South Boylston.
Boylston.
Okay. Thank you, Anne Marie. And Kristen Black, Northborough, present. So welcome everybody. I just want to remind everyone that this video is being recorded and streamed live and will be available after the meeting on the Northborough remote meeting channel on YouTube. So this meeting will not feature public comment, but the public's willing to follow along. And we'll have this available. So thank you everybody for being here. And we have some guests today as we'll work through the agenda. I just want to go around the room so you all remember Gabriella Knox, who is our DPH public health intern from the summer, will be presenting today. Taylor West is a public health nurse in Southborough. Mike Hugo of MAHB, and Rick Mucci. Am I saying that right, Rick? Okay, we'll be covering our first topic, so we'll get straight to it. Mike and Rich, our first on the agenda is our Public Health Excellence Grant, in particular review of our intermunicipal agreement. So thank you to Isabella, who's also on this call. I'm sorry, Isabella, our program coordinator and epidemiologist at Greater Boroughs Partnership for Health. She had circulated to everybody a draft IMA that was prepared by Rich and his team and Mike over at MAHB, who's contracted to help regions like ours. Just to reflect back, our IMA was made very early on in July of 2021. It was signed and voted by select boards at the time, or boards of selectmen and boards of health in all 4 communities. And if you look at that short signed agreement, you'll note that it says that come January, we need to review it and it will expire at the end of June. So Isabella reached out to MAHB and said, you know, can you help us, and what's sort of our current best recommendation? So this is really prepared by Rich. So I'll hand it over, and if you could really walk us through the new template that you're using in other communities, and then we'll open it up to questions and comments from the advisory board members. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Kristen. Hi, everyone. So my name is Rich Mucci. I'm an attorney. I work with MAHB. I'm a contractor that has been retained to help all the PHE collaboratives as needed with technical assistance in drafting IMAs and answering, related questions as they get off the ground. I work, with Mike Hugo, Cheryl Sabara. They handle more of the policy questions, and Mike's here certainly to weigh in on some of the questions, if any are out there. But I'm more of the technical aspects, the actual meat and potatoes of an agreement, the written words and things like that. So I am a contract attorney by trade, past litigator. So I have a law practice myself, but I contract with MAHB and DPH to provide these services. So what you have been provided is kind of a personalized template of what we've been calling our best practices and recommendations for PHE collaboratives and how they can come together in the form of an intermunicipal agreement. Your group was certainly well ahead of the curve by having one in place so early on. Many groups are still trying to get their first one off the ground. So it was great to have that to reference. And I think, as you all know, the program has kind of evolved since you first started in various ways. So, the goal of this exercise and reviewing what you had was to kind of give you the flexibility to continue to evolve as the program does, and also make sure that it is collaborative focused and less about the host community and about, your role, and so that everyone knows what their obligations are and everyone knows what their rights are. So, Kristen, if I can share my screen, I'm happy to run through just generally what it is. And then if people have questions as I go through it, I'm happy to answer them. But how this process usually works is we meet with the group like this. We give you time, I explain, a high level 30,000 foot view of the IMA. We give you time to review it. We work with the host community first to make sure that they're comfortable with it, their town council is comfortable with it, and their management's comfortable with it. And then it kind of goes out to your communities, and we do the same thing with them. If your town council has questions, certainly or changes, we certainly work with them to address those as necessary. I'm here just to guide and facilitate the process and help out in any way possible. I will tell you that, what you've seen is kind of a template that has evolved over time with the input from, different municipal attorneys, big firms such as KP Law, Mead Tallerman, just to name a few, and then, one-off attorneys as well. So we've kind of, taken, what we've gotten over time for feedback and kind of addressed that into this template and what we've seen to kind of help with these best practices. So I'm going to share my screen at this point. Can everyone see that? Is that big enough? Okay. So I stuck with the terminology that you guys all used, which was how you defined each municipality as a town, and then the collective as the towns, and your name, the Greater Boroughs Partnership for Health. What you saw maybe change were these whereases, which really aren't necessarily, what the agreement is all about, but kind of set the stage for what the agreement is after these. So these kind of just set the stage of how you got to the point where you're at this time. You'll notice in this last whereas here, we have a program manager. So that would be, Kristen at Northborough, we would consider her the program manager. And ultimately, they're the ones that signed the contract with DPH. They're certainly the ones kind of that, are responsible for the whole program. From there, you have the creation of the Public Health Services Collaborative, which is what you already have created. And this kind of outlines, how the collaborative would work. The collaborative works through the advisory board, which is, not different from what you have right now. And Kristen, as the program manager, will coordinate, manage, and direct the activities of the parties with respect to the subject matter of the grant program. And we'll get to the shared services coordinator in Isabella's position in a second. But basically, this first paragraph just kind of sets the stage for what you're creating, who is ultimately responsible for it, and how you ended up in this position, which is the contract you entered into in Exhibit A with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And why are you doing this? Well, you're doing this to create a shared services program. And that's kind of the whole purpose of the program. You'll see the term is different than what you guys had in your original agreement. This one basically is in place until the grant program funds are no longer available, or if you decide to terminate the agreement and end the partnership, but at no more than 25 years. So we'll see. Hopefully the grant program continues. Hopefully the funds continue, but that's this allows you to kind of have this living and breathing document over time, so you're not having to keep changing it every 2.5 years through. You can always amend it, and there's procedures for that below in the agreement. But basically, you're at a point now where you're established. The program is kind of getting its legs underneath it, and so the idea is that this document will control how the group functions for the foreseeable future. Next paragraph, paragraph 3, like you had before, kind of just defines, Northborough as the host town. It talks about that they will oversee a grant program and shared services program provided for, described in Exhibit B. So what we did was, what I recommend doing is taking out of the body of this agreement, what the actual shared services program deliverables are, and putting those into an exhibit. And I kind of gave examples of the generality that we're kind of using to give you some flexibility in the services that are being provided, which I would assume has changed over time and will continue to change over time as money is made available, as needs arise. So What I recommend to every group is we put those in an exhibit, because what we can do is, if things change materially enough that you need to amend Exhibit B, then what I would recommend doing is, we do a one-page amendment and we just change what is in Exhibit B, rather than having to go through the whole document and change the actual, material paragraphs in the governance document. What you have next are kind of the responsibilities of the lead municipality, which aren't any different from what you had before. The legalese might have changed a little bit, but basically everything is the same. And I actually took what you guys had in your original agreement and kind of just put it in here as well. Next up is your shared services coordinator position. Northborough as a host town shall hire an employer shared services coordinator, which Northborough has done. This kind of defines what that role is about, and how Northborough may retain up to 15% of the funds of the grant in order for wages and resources related to the performance of such duties in managing this grant program and managing the shared services coordinator as well. Down here, it just talks about the shared services coordinator and any participating collaborative staff working on behalf of the collaborative or the advisory board shall be considered employees of Northborough and shall be accorded all the benefits enjoyed by other Northborough employees. This is basically what you had before, but we get into making sure that everyone knows that if there is a position to be hired by this collaborative, it will be considered a Northborough employee and subject to all their rules, regulations, and benefits. 5, governance. This is pretty similar to what you had before. I did note the one highlighted change where you do have an even number of towns. You do, by statute, need to have some type of tie-breaking vote. And so what we've done in other communities that I think has worked well is we've made the shared services coordinator a non-voting member, except when there's a tie, and they would be permitted to cast that deciding vote. If it's not the shared services coordinator, then we could think of another way of doing it. But most of the communities that we've dealt with where they've had even numbers, we've put that shared services coordinator as that tie-breaking vote if necessary. Everything else you'll see in here is very similar, if not identical, to what you had originally in here. The only difference I added number 11 and 12, where we talk about shared staff, evaluating shared staff, and then you're really technically Northborough is the hiring agent. So the advisory board is requesting, authorizing, and recommending the host town hire shared services employees or contractors. And same thing with termination. So we just kind of have evolved that legal language over time. Meetings are the same. And then we get into paragraph 6, where we talk about the obligations of the towns. Again, some of these are directly out of what you had before. I did add additional paragraphs F through J, which kind of, is in our current template that, basically just defines, the role of the towns and what, we're expecting them to do and their best efforts and how we define their best efforts. 7 is a technical paragraph concerning funding and what we expect the host town to do in terms of funding. We expect to hold the money, only spend and authorize disbursements at the vote of the advisory board, and then how they can handle that 15% grant funding. We also talk about, that you already had in there, but about the budget and that the board would develop an annual budget as well. And that's what this paragraph at the top here talks about. 8, other municipal services. I think you had this in your previous draft, but basically what this says is, you're not limited to the PHE funds. If this group is working well and you want to apply for other grants, you can certainly do that. If towns, want to be part of something else, they're allowed to do that as well. There's nothing exclusive in requiring them to remain, solely in this grant program. they can certainly, take advantage of all the programs that are forming out there as well. 9 employees, this is identical to what you had before, just about how employees are treated, kind of what we just talked about, that, if there's an employee hired by a town for the shared services program, they're going to be, a representative of that town. And then in terms of liability, each town is responsible for their own employees in performance of this agreement. 10 indemnification, this is exactly what you had before. And still holds true in what we think are best practices. I didn't change anything in termination, entrance, assignment, any of these paragraphs down here, which I would consider, kind of boilerplate to all, to any type of agreement such as this, any type of intermunicipal agreement. All the provisions are exactly the same as you had them before. The notice provisions, and then this is the complete agreement of the parties. I will just scroll down to Exhibit B, so you kind of get a flavor of what I was referring to if you hadn't already looked at it. Exhibit A is the contract with the state, and then Exhibit B. Again, these are just by examples of how we, generally term the services that are being provided to give you that flexibility to ebb and flow as the group feels necessary by a vote of the advisory board. That's pretty much in a nutshell what we're recommending for your revisions to your IMA. At this point, I'll stop sharing and just see if there's any questions from anyone. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Chelsea. Yeah.
Thank you for that overview. I did notice one thing that probably wouldn't have existed in our prior agreement, because we just switched to Northborough being the only one that has to post for each agenda and minutes. And I didn't see the posting method 940 CMR 29.0. Add that into this because that's something, at least on the Southborough side, that we've voted and adopted. So just so that we're covered and consistent.
Sure. So in the paragraph that we discussed meetings, we just state generally that all meetings shall be conducted in compliance with Massachusetts open meeting law, as may be amended from time to time. But certainly if you've adopted that that posting requirement, that we kind of put out a bulletin on that's great. I could certainly add that in here as well, just so it's clear.
Have all the other boards adopted that? Do you know? Does anybody else know if their boards have adopted it? Do you know what we're talking about? Does anybody not know what we're talking about right now? Okay, so Ray, what we're talking about is that in order to have one of these meetings, it's a public meeting, and so it's subject to OML. And instead of having you guys have to post it, and every other one of the towns having to post it, we'll give you a text that you can bring to your Board of Health, and they can read it. It's a motion, and what it does is it makes it so that you don't have to post it, but on your webpage you'll say that these meetings, you meet regularly with your PHE group, and that these meetings are posted at the website or at the usual posting place for your host community.
Oh, that's perfect. I missed a couple of last Board of Health meetings, so they may have passed it without me knowing, but no, that's good to know. If we get that text or email, the information you want, then we can have that done if it hasn't already been done.
Okay, good. And yeah, it just takes it off of your plate, makes it easier, makes your life easier.
And I just have a question about number 12 on the entrance. Is it standard language to have no less than a 2/3 vote of the advisory board when you have a 4-member board?
So we've been using that language for all different PHE groups that we've seen, regardless of the makeup. If we're talking about adding, a new municipality, we want it more than just a majority, I think.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that, at least, a super majority is kind of comfortable with that addition. But, certainly since it's 4 members, I mean, it's 2/3 anyways, I believe, right? So
It would be. I just
2/3.
was wondering why it didn't say supermajority over the 2/3.
We can have it however you want. This is, kind of the baseline, what we're recommending, but certainly if you wanted something more, in fact, I'm not sure you had an entrance provision in your last IMA, so that would be something new.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just thinking if we add a fifth and we don't want to have to revise this IMA, does it make sense for us to have it just refer to supermajority rather than just so that we always know it's supermajority and not a certain percentage? But I'm indifferent on it. I was just wondering.
Yeah, no, certainly we can make that change if the group supports that.
I like the approach, Chelsea. I think when I said to Mike and Rich, like, go ahead and do your best work and just give us like the gold standard, what you want. And we really want something that's going to stand the test of time, because I became very anxious when it came up that Mike looked at our IMA and he said, it's going to expire. So and I was like, no, I forgot. Like, right. Like, so the more we can make it a document that we don't have to look at it all the time. And we'll still be, I think we do the work, but we don't always look at the legal instrument behind it. So I'm supportive of that, Chelsea. One question, Mike, about, Exhibit A is in there, but like we shouldn't need to review this document all the time. Exhibit A will be the current contract with the state at the time of the most recent amendment, right? Is that how Exhibit A would work? We're not going to go back and redo this every time to like the annual. It's just at the time that we sign it will be the most recent contract. Okay.
Yep.
We'll clarify that. And then I guess the question on Exhibit B, I mean, I think that's where our group needs to do some work. The goal of today is to introduce you to, Mike and Rich and sort of best practice. Northborough, our council hasn't even looked at it. I think, Rich, you wrapped this revision up like last week, and we're still okay on time. Our current IMA says that we're going to begin reviewing it in January. So that's what we're doing. If you want to take, I think my thought process we have to fill out Exhibit B as a group. Northborough will take sort of a first pass, and then we'll push it out. But if there's anything, like Chelsea, your point, anything glaring that any of the towns want right away, like, let's get it to us. Like, the sooner we can sort of incorporate. If you have a great relationship with council and they're on staff and you don't have to pay extra and they're going to look at it for free, feel free to send it early.
Well, they could get it for free though. That's another point I wanted to make, is that the grant pays for your legal counsel. So in some towns, there's resistance by the town manager to boards and commissions going directly to your town's council. And you can assure your town manager and your bean counters there that it's not going to come out of your money. It would be helpful. I'm wondering whether or not you all, in many of these groups, everybody has the same law firm representing them anyhow. Do we have a bunch of different law firms here? We do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anne-Marie, do you know who you have in Boylston? I can't remember town council in Boylston.
Unfortunately, I try to find out though during meeting.
Okay. And Ray I don't know, it looks like Ray, do you know who council is for Westboro?
No.
Okay. Anyway,
Okay.
well, if you do find out, if you want to just let us know, because
Yeah, but I'll have Jen get back to you. I'll make a note. I've been making notes to the meeting. I'll have Jen get back to you on town council. I know we have one, but it's not somebody that I can deal with. It has to go through the director anyways. So I will have her get that info.
Okay. And
Let's
yeah, we're
bring
with
that out.
Northborough's KP Law. I thought two of our towns overlapped. I remember last time around.
I think KP Law may be ours too, but I don't want to say for sure.
Okay.
And so what we do in that instance is we go to KP Law and ask them to review it on behalf of, and I'm doing that. I actually am I think some of you know this, but I'm the shared services coordinator for the islands, which makes a lot of sense. I live in Wellesley and I'm working with the islands, but they all have 5 out of the 6 towns have the same lawyer. And so I've approached that lawyer and said, just send me the bill. That way we don't have to pay 5 separate legal fees. And
So would
then
that be, they would send it to Northborough and Northborough would pay it through the grant? Is that what you're saying?
they probably will build, they're going to be more comfortable doing it through their own
Right.
client, billing the
And then they'll
client.
invoice us.
But then, yeah, then they can invoice you, and you'll ultimately cut the check, however the
Yeah, we haven't
Participate-
yet done that in our region where you would invoice Northborough for a charge that you've incurred. So what I would just say best practice, I think we can find money in the budget, but let me know before you authorize that charge that I can make sure we have money for it. And so let's just have that conversation, but we should have money to move around if that's needed. A little bit more on Exhibit B. I think that's where our group would need to put some work in, you know, with Isabella and really say like, what services are listed there? What services do we really want to see? And my question to you, Rich and Mike, is some of these services we might not do in a given year, or it might be a service that other communities, it's something we aspire to do in 3 years. So, you know, we're going to have our core inspectional services, inspectional software, nursing, epidemiologists. But like, what do you really recommend boards like ours to do in terms of how broad do we want to go? I mean, we could put 25 public health service. What happens if it's not on the list? Is the goal to try to
I would
capture-
say I'd throw a catch-all in there saying and such other employees and assets or whatever, however you want to put it, as is determined by the governing board. And
Yeah.
that way you're leaving yourself wide open for whatever you want to do in the future.
Yeah, and we're happy to review that for you. But once you guys, I agree, you know, that's kind of the personalized touch for all these groups. So you're gonna have to spend your most time getting that, you know, nailed down. And then we're happy to review it. But we've used, you know, language like that, you know, and perform all ancillary services, you know, that assist in you know, providing these shared services listed above, or, you know, we find ways to kind of, you know, just allow you to kind of have that flexibility. So certainly happy to work with you. So I would list what you're going to be your core services, what you're aspiring to, and we can kind of we can work with you on that language as well.
Great.
And again, you know, you got to strike that balance where you don't want to be so general, no one knows what you're talking about, but you know, you don't want to be so specific to kind of, you know, nail you down to, you know, well, it said 75 hours of X, you know, we're providing 100, you know, in this, you know, and we're only providing services to this one town for this, where it could shift over time. So, you know, those are certainly, you know, decisions the advisory board can make on a, you know, more than a yearly basis, you know, monthly, you know, semi-annual basis, however you want to do it budget wise. But you just want to be able to have that flexibility in this document. That's really the goal of it, is to create and formalize the group and a basic stated purpose of what you're supplying at this point in time, or hope to supply.
Any other questions for Mike and Rich?
I think this is a process question, so select board also has to sign off on this, and that's probably a little bit easier for the towns that aren't elected to bring forward. But I'm assuming that we'll continue to work through this in our March meeting, and then hopefully have a draft sometime between March and June that we would all bring to our select boards at the same time. I just want to make sure that I time when we need to get on an agenda.
Yeah, so the process is, you know, once this group, you know, behind the scenes is working through it, and you have kind of a finalized draft, once everything's final, it would need to be approved by your boards of health and your select board. I assume these are all towns, so you all have select boards and no mayors in any of these towns. So it would be all select boards, you know, and we've helped in that process as well, as needed, if questions arise or if there's resistance or any issues that come up.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
And
we're happy also to go to your select boards with any questions, to answer any questions, especially geographically where you guys all are. It's a cinch for me to get there. You know, and if we have to do it by Zoom, please make sure that they don't mute it. I showed up for a meeting last night with the Plymouth Select Board, and it was on mute. I couldn't hear a word they were saying, and it had the chat was closed. And it didn't have my camera on, so I couldn't wave. There was no, I was just watching, reading lips. They all look very, very pretty and handsome, but there was nothing that could be done. So
and Chelsea, I think my preference is I don't want to wait to the bitter end. You know, this is a lot of people, a lot of boards meeting. I also think there's huge improvements over this IMA with our IMA right now. So my preference would be to do this sooner than later, right? If it were to replace our existing IMA and we could write that it was, you know, in lieu of, like, I don't see that we have to wait till the other one expires. Like, I'm sure, Rich, you could help write us in. I think this is bigger and better, and I think everyone's going to feel more comfortable going into their own town budget cycle and sort of having it. So I'd love to get this done sooner, assuming we move along, right, and giving us a
Sure.
3-month buffer there. If we could have this voted and distributed, you know, to everybody in like March, that would be amazing. And
Okay.
that gives us time if a board needs more time or issues arise. What I've asked for Mike and Rich was to come today, and then to prepare a memo that would sort of outline this. So maybe not maybe they don't have to go to every Board of Health meeting and every select board meeting, but if we could have a memo that sort of talked through the key changes, why, who made this draft, that it's been reviewed by Northfield Council. I think that memo might answer a lot of boards' questions, and then we can try to not, you know, drag them out to every meeting, but it will do whatever towns need to get it done. If I have to be there, Isabella, or whatever it might be. So please, I'd say next steps is for everybody to take a look. We'll work internally here in Northborough with Isabella on Exhibit B. Chelsea, I think Rich can bring that back and double check on the posting. We thought of that too. I think that's a great catch. And then, yeah, we'll try to get this in a working place, get it to Northborough Town Council. And if we're flying through Northborough, it looks good. I'd love to get it out to town sooner. If we need to do a quick meeting just to give the go ahead, review a draft memo that would go out to the 4 towns. We'll go from there.
Yeah, we're happy to help in any way, and certainly, as you pointed out, Christine, you do not need to wait for the other agreement to expire. You can certainly supplant it with a new IMA. So,
And Kristen, I sent you a memo that I had written, a guidance document on what the PHE program is. I just sent it to you a little while ago. So if you want to distribute that around to people, it basically was designed to be a document you could hand to your town manager when they say, "What is this grant anyway?"
Yeah.
It answers all of those questions.
Well, I have a new town administrator on Monday, so that's good time.
That's why I sent it to you.
He already asked. He did sign a document already, but no, I appreciate that. So that's
Okay.
awesome. Okay. Any other questions while we have Mike and Rich on the call? Okay. Well, we're really grateful, and Rich did a lot of work. He did all the work and produced this beautiful document and spent a lot of time. So thank you, Rich and Mike, for being so available and meeting and coming before, and we'll be in touch.
sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Nice to meet you all. See you later.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, great. We will move on. I know we're sort of running a little low on time, and I want to make sure we have time for Gabriella. So if you're feeling like I'm rushing, just raise your hand and stop me. Next on the agenda, we have current staffing, future staff, and program planning. I just want to reiterate, since our last meeting, Erin Coulard, our full-time public health nurse who is contracted through Salmon VNA, resigned. So Erin's last day in the office was the end of October. So that position's currently open. What we've done administratively is we are not paying Salmon. We prorated their contract based off their current level of nursing. So it's not that we're paying them and they're not providing us the nurse. One thing we spoke about, their contract with Salmon VNA is ending at the end of June. We do a year-to-year contract for the 1.5 FTEs, and then there's additional contracted nursing that we paid for through the contact tracing grant that was part of our budget review. We decided at this time that the town of Northborough, the state has been pushing us to hire full-time town employees, that they really want to see Erin's full-time position become a town of Northborough employee. That's been the plan from when we first signed the grant over 2 years ago. And so we're still planning for that July 1. Given that we might be transitioning that full-time nurse position, that will be part of our discussion with the FY25 budget planning process. It didn't make sense to hire someone new contracted for like a year, onboard them, and likely be replacing them. However, Salmon VNA did bring on a new nurse educator Her name's Heather Welch. She's worked in many of our communities. Southborough, I think she's done CPR training for your library or schools. She's done CPR training and other things like that. First aid training, babysitting after school. She's a school nurse, but she's a great natural educator. And our plan is to bring her on, and she has availability evenings, things like that, to do educational programming in our 4 communities. And so if you want Narcan training that Erin was doing, right, we know that was really valid. We want to keep it going. And we're also have CPR equipment that we purchased it. That was part of this group. So we're going to be building some of that capacity with like a per diem nurse educator. So, you know, just our total surplus amount, we moved our nursing that was on the contact tracing under the PHE fund. So Penny Giacobbe, that's been filling in and mostly supporting Boylston, Southborough home wellness checks. She's been doing vaccines and homes for all the flu shots and other things. So Penny's available as our backup. She's still here. She's 24 hours a week. So we've sort of moved things over. So we do have a surplus. I was just running some of those numbers with Erin's position and moving the nursing over for the remainder of the year. We are going to have an additional $21,000, use it or lose it under this grant. And so that's something we need to think about. That can go towards Heather. What we've done, the contact tracing funds were extended. So we have like around $90,000. We're not drawing on those funds. Those will continue. So we're trying to use the funds first that will expire at the end of the year. But there will be, you know, I think we need to have a deeper dive. And I think at this point, I just want to really reach out to all of you. It's always open. You can reach Isabella at any time. If you have needs for anything immediate, like nursing services, increased TB cases, you want to have somebody out to do Narcan. We definitely have some in-house or ability or per diem nursing with Salmon to cover any of that through this fiscal year. You just need to let us know what you need, and we have the ability to pull additional nurses from Salmon at this point. And if you feel like there's anything missing, you know, that you definitely need, we are looking to get back Narcan training as soon as possible, working through your libraries or whatever associations you need. So we're hoping to have that back on board like as early as next month, or, you know, for sure next month. January's a go because Heather's here, as well as CPR, if that's something you need. And if you guys can think of any other things, you know, or immediate needs, let us know. With the surplus money we expect as a result of Erin's position, 21,000, there's other things that we could contract for. You know, if you need help reviewing something or creating a health communication, have a contractor, I think we can be creative. I just want you to realize that we will have that surplus. And we'll get into a deeper dive and looking at the staffing plan at our next meeting as we're beginning to plan for that fiscal year 25 budget. Anybody want to bring up any thoughts on staffing or programs or current needs? Okay. All right.
Sorry.
So we'll move on.
Sorry. So I think we actually did have a Narcan training in December in Southborough. So I think we've been able to continue that. In terms of the CPR, I still think we should look at how we can do more outreach to the community. I know the timing kind of didn't work out with Erin leaving, but Taylor and I can kind of brainstorm offline too and figure out ways that we can, you know, ideas that we can bring back to this group.
That sounds awesome. Great. Okay, yeah, and as soon as Heather's officially on board, I'll have her send all of you an email with the types of things she can do, and you guys can independently like set up meetings with Heather to discuss if you want to do any trainings or just support other activities. So we'll be hopefully have that ability soon. All right, so I will hand over our next agenda item, data update with Isabella.
This brief as well. Okay, can everyone see that? All right, so I know Heather talked about the Metro West Health Foundation survey results a little bit last time we met, but I just wanted to go over it very quickly. So overall, we had a pretty good response rate. So we had about actually exactly 192 responses, which made up 17.6% of all of the respondents. So Northborough had 14.2, and then Southborough and Westborough had about 2%. Boylston, unfortunately, is not within the Metro West Health region. So overall, they focused on 5 main priorities. Those are in that pretty picture. So mental health, substance use, built and natural environment, housing insecurity and homelessness, as well as food insecurity, which is perfect for Gabriella's project. So their full community health assessment was very well written. So I have sent it out in Friday emails in the past, but I can send it out again if anyone would like to review it. They also have an online dashboard that you can look at county and town and zip code. So if you want to get more specific. And then they focused on additional barriers, which were barriers to access to healthcare, challenges with chronic disease, as well as health disparities. So they're kind of next year, we'll be focusing on these topics, different grants that we can apply to. So just all things to think about. And then the other survey that I talked a lot about was the Community Health Equity Initiative survey. So though we don't have the results yet, but we had about 276 respondents. So again, a good response rate. So their plan is to have some data available in December. So at the end of the month, hopefully. And then starting in 2024, we'll have more of that tailored tables with our shared service agreement, as well as town specific data. So that's through McCain's group, the state epidemiologist. So I will report on that hopefully in our next meeting in March. Does anyone have any questions about all the surveys that I was pesky about? Perfect. I will keep moving then. Because it's the end of 2023, I just wanted to take a moment to kind of reflect on all of the nurses, what they've done. So these numbers.
Isabella, can I interrupt for a second? Sorry, you have this live caption that's like blocking part of the slide. Are you guys seeing that too? Yeah, so it says like live captions, a big orange box. Got it.
Oh, it's not on my screen. Wait, let me stop sharing.
Okay.
I also need to log off, but Chelsea is here for Southborough. Thank you.
I will have to switch to my AirPods in 12 minutes to go do my pickup routine.
Okay, is that better if I just don't?
Yeah, just leave it that. That's perfect.
All right. So overall, we've had 11 flu clinics, and this is throughout the 4 towns for the past year. So 11 flu clinics, 31 homebound flu vaccines, which Penny did a good majority of those, 107 home wellness visits, 102 blood pressure clinics, 12 educational presentations, which includes Narcan trainings and anything at the senior center. And then I think the biggest statistic, 449 Narcan kits were distributed, which is almost 900 doses because 2 doses are in each kit. So just really great work. I know Taylor's here, Anne Marie, and then Erin and Penny and Jim. They're all doing awesome work. And the last thing before I turn it over to Gabriella is I currently do the weekly health update. I just wanted to get a pulse on if we should change the frequency of that or if we should include any other people. Also, I do post it on the website every single week. So it's in the news and updates on the Greater Boroughs webpage for residents. So if anyone has any opinions on that. I personally think we could do every other week, but I'll leave that open.
I think every other week is fine.
Yeah, I would say that's totally fine.
Okay. Kristen, anything?
No, I just want to make sure people are seeing it. I know there's staff changes. Isabel, would you mind sending to everybody what your distribution list is, just so we can review it like by town? Because I've sort of lost track. Like I know we might need to update some, or even as individual towns reach out and say, you've been receiving this newsletter. Do you want to continue to receive it? Or just even reminding staff it is available on the website. So I know we have at least, one former member that, they religiously look for it in Northborough and they find it helpful, or, just thoughts if you guys are
What percentage of people who respond back, but
yeah.
I
Which
will
is even
send
if
that
people
list.
you could share it online or the stats, just that we're using it and it's the best use of your time. So it's also, when you send that Isabella, just if you could give like a cap of like what you typically include, and if anybody wants to respond, then they know what they're signing up for, if we're adding more people, or if there's things that are not in that like every other week cap. I think my board members really appreciate it. Because it's sort of just summarizing all the recent updates through DPH, the state, or any of our like regional associations, but I want to make it useful, so.
Perfect. And we don't need a formal vote on the every other.
No.
Okay, Gabriella, your turn. Thank you so much for joining us. And Gabriella has completed her project. So I know we've sent out some emails. Gabriella has sent the email with the final resource guide, but I will turn it to her. I think you can share your screen, Gabriella.
Thank you, Isabella. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. So I'd like to share the final food resource guide for Greater Boroughs. So on my screen here, so this is already live on the Greater Boroughs website. And what I included in here, and definitely feel free to take a look when you have a moment, a closer look, but this is what it looks like right at the front. And in the guide is the work that I was doing over this past summer and fall. I went to all 4 towns and I was able to talk to folks that worked at the food pantry, do research on the food resources, and compile them in this guide. So there's a glossary on different kind of food insecurity related topics. There is a page that has different information on how to sign up for SNAP, for WIC, for other kinds of nutrition programs. Because this is all digital too, these highlighted links do work. They click out. I won't click on them now, but it's very easy to access the other websites. And then each town has its own page with the local resources in each town. So North Borough, South Borough, West Borough, and Boylston. And then there's also a couple other cool things that I included in here. There's a full SNAP and WIC store list. So all of the different stores that folks can go to that take WIC benefits and SNAP benefits. And then there's a QR code that we created that if you scan it with your phone, you're able to see a map of the stores and get directions and be able to just sync that right with your phone to be able to go shopping at any of these stores. There is a specialized page for older adults. It's essentially from all of the 4 towns, the different resources compiled on one page, and then also some information on some regional resources, Meals on Wheels and things like that. There's another page for regional resources. There are a lot of different regional resources close by, and especially in Worcester County, but I included a few in here as well. And then also just some volunteer opportunities and important phone numbers and things that people can also use to access different food resources or get information. And then I will also quickly share, I made a couple of postcards and things to share with the community. So I will share this now. I made a few that are targeted to different populations, and we haven't talked so much about where these might be posted, but this one is geared toward families, so food for the whole family. It has the website and a QR code so that folks can either scan it with their phone or visit the website. There's also other ones like this one, quick access to WIC, so you can sign up for WIC. Actually, I have to put the website name in here too. There is one for older adults. Oh, let's see, where did it go? Older adults, adult age 60 plus, lunches on us. It has, this guide has a list of different senior lunch programs. So those are just a couple of them. There are 6 of them in total. And then I did a couple of mock-up flyers that kind of look like the front page of the resource guide. And so those are free to use and be distributed how you see fit, and they're in a format that will be easily updated. So if there are changes, if there are new resources that become available, anything like that, they can definitely be added to the guide. And that's all I have for today. But thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Gabrielle. It's been a pleasure having you. So I just wanted to bring up one thing. I know Heather had mentioned it, and I know she just left, but she did think it would be a good idea to print out some of the guides. So I just wanted to see if any other towns would be interested. We definitely have funds available. Okay, perfect.
Can,
All right.
can we just talk about distribution for a second?
Yeah, of course.
Gabriella, that was great. Nice job on putting all that together. I mean, I think for some of the postcard ones, we could ask the schools to put like the family one in the community backpack. I don't know what Boylston and Westboro call their kind of distribution of information every week. I mean, I don't think it hits a lot of people. There's just so much information. I don't think a lot of people get through all of it, but maybe it will hit somebody's radar, and maybe print out a few of the postcards for like the community fridge, at least in Southborough. I think Northborough has one too. But do you have any other ideas, Gabriella, on ways to distribute this information so that it's accessible to people who might need it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that one thing too, like because there is a lot of information in the guide, so it's like, what if somebody were to open up this guide and they're like, okay, you know, page 1, okay, this looks good, but the information that they need is on page 8. So maybe even like creating something that's a little bit like, I don't know, like quick links or something like that, maybe a page kind of that people could visit and it will directly point them to like something in their town or for children. I'm sure that I could make something else too that was like geared for kids. And then I think too, just another note on accessibility, and we talked about this a little different, but languages too, making this available in other languages. So earlier in the summer, I talked to Northborough and Southborough schools, and they did give me some information on like the 5 most popular languages that are spoken in those schools. And I have that list somewhere, so I can send it to Isabella, and then we can circulate that and see if there's other languages that should be included, to possibly have some of this translated so that people can access it that way. So yeah, a couple of things, but I'll definitely think on that too, because I was thinking about that as well. There's a lot of great information, but how can we make sure that people get the snippet that they need to be able to act on? Yeah.
Go ahead, Ray.
So Gabrielle, we have another fridge that was added after you did your stuff. How are we gonna be able to add any new stuff? Is that gonna be available for us to add more information to the guide?
I'll take that one. So that's a great question. So I have access to all of this and it's in my Canva account. So just feel free to reach out to me if anything changes, and I will update that. But we will definitely update that before we print anything. And then I think just to wrap this up, I think some printed copies of the full guide. I know it may be a little bit pricier, but Northborough had a really good turnout with the mailed resource guide. So I'm not saying we would mail it to all the houses, but just to have like a little stack at a library or the food pantry or the senior center. So something like that to have all the resources if they're not going to use their phone, a QR code. But again, great work, Gabriella. And if you have any other questions, feel free to email me and Gabriella as she wraps up.
That's awesome. Just, yeah, Gabriella, great job. You know, it's such good timing. I think there's such a need in our communities. And it's exciting and it's neat to really see what's out there. And so thank you. I would say for all the towns, like my thought in Northborough is I'm going to send the full guide to our senior center, veterans agent, library and schools, and really just say it's in this way. Maybe we can send those mock postcards, you know, but if your library does everything as like a pamphlet upright and that's how they display, I think we can make it in any size, like a QR code. Ideally, you know, we're going to update the website, and then the goal is it would be there and it would be a translatable format, right? Or we could host through a third party. So I think having it in multiple languages is definitely a long-term goal. That was in our work plan, Isabella, and that's what some of our deliverables for our PHE region. So that is something we will continue to work through. But I'd say you guys let us know what you need. If you're like, I love the flyer, but I want the postcard to be a pamphlet at the library. So talk to your people where you'd send it out. We'll definitely just make, you know, let us know how many printed copies. You can send it electronically. And if you have organizations in town that want another format, they're like a business card. Right, it might just be a business card that sits at the library, like resource desk. I think either if Gabrielle's still on board and volunteering time, or Isabella can put that together. And the state just pushed out, as we'll talk later, more interim positions, you know, for the upcoming year. So let us know what your community needs. Please push it out. Let us know how many copies, and we'll look to have those made. We do our printing with HB Printing right now. Is one of the vendors we've used locally, and there's others. So we're happy to do that. Okay. Anything else on food insecurity? Okay, thank you again, Gabrielle. I don't know if we'll see you. I hope we cross paths in public health at some point, and you're always welcome back.
Thank you so much. All right. Bye.
Bye, Gabriella.
Okay, next, and we are like at time, so we'll try to wrap up within the next 5 minutes if we can, guys. I'll move quickly. Substance use prevention work. There were some recent updates with the state about opioid use settlement funds on the DPH call. If you haven't already set up a stabilization funds, it sounds like the towns are working on that, but if you have any questions, reach out to Cheryl Savara regarding access to those funds. But I just wanted to run the thought by you. One of the things we've been looking at in Northborough in particular, I've had a few conversations in Southborough. All of our towns have to do this public input process, right? In order to use the opioid funds, you must solicit input. In all of our towns, you might have great relationships. Westboro is our largest town. I know you have some rehab facilities. Maybe you've already done your community input. And you've already are you actually, Ray, are you like over and done with it, or is it something that's ongoing?
I believe it's ongoing. The fire chief and Jennifer, and we have a new police chief, have been working with our rehab centers, speaking with them. I know Jen's had 2 or 3 meetings. I want to say it's ongoing because I think nobody could come to a final conclusion on what they want to do. They had a lot of ideas. They're building 2 new buildings up there right now, so they're having a hard time meeting with us. But I know Jennifer and Pat and Todd, the new police chief, have been working on it together.
Okay. One of the thoughts, I was at MAHB, there's a presentation by Falmouth, the town of Falmouth, their community about 30,000 with little higher substance use rates out on the Cape. They did a really nice job working with a consultant through the town, and they used a consultant to help solicit input. And they did key stakeholder meetings with people with lived experience, so very specific, people that have lost somebody to an overdose, people who are either, personally like in recovery. It's very difficult to get somebody who's mid-use to come out and do these sort of things. But it sounds like with our contact tracing funds, that might be something we could use that would do it like on behalf of the region. So we did just receive a proposal from Bright Solutions, a contractor that we've worked with on other substance use work in Northborough, Southborough. It's not complete yet. We're waiting for some more. So one of the thoughts I had for all of you is if that was a proposal or a service, I'll give you more information. If we have a level of interest in moving forward, we'll probably do like I don't want to say emergency meeting, but an unscheduled meeting, and we could vote moving forward with a vendor. And it would just be one of those that my thought is this vendor would come in, they'd engage with each of the towns, they'd do some joint listening sessions at different libraries, input sessions, and it would help the towns figure out how to use the money. But I got to get final approval from the contact tracing folks at DPH that review that grant. The first look, it's not an allowed expense through PHE, but it may be with contact tracing. So that would just take the lift off of all of us of doing all the input sessions and really trying to get input from the full range, as well as documenting it and presenting that to the community. So more of it to come. Look for an email in the next month or so on that proposal. We got to make sure it's allowable expense, and then we'd have to meet again to vote if that's something we'd want to do. I know Northborough's very interested. You can use your own opioid funds for it, but in Falmouth, they used other funds because they didn't want to spend the money to figure out how to use the money, right? They wanted to be creative, find other sources, use that to get them in a good place, and then those funds would be like fully intact to use for their individual town's discretion. So more to come. Unless there's any comments there.
I think that would be something we'd be interested in looking at.
Okay, awesome. So good. I don't want to make promises, but if it looks like it could be a go, we'll try to get that proposal. I think the contract amounts, I'm guessing it's going to be around 20,000 or so, but the idea is that they would do like outreach and work through all of our various towns, and it wouldn't be town specific. It also helps in smaller communities like Northborough, where it's not identifying, right? You could be in a focus group that's maybe 4 towns. It's not
right.
A little easier to keep confidentiality. Okay. Anything else on substance use or move on? We're still mid-grant, no huge rush. It's not like a FEP meeting here to spend it or we're going to lose at this point, but just keeping in mind equipment needs. Ray, I know Jen mentioned she might need a replacement iPad. Do you know, is that still needed?
Yeah, I think it was hers that she needs replacement. Maria and I We have
do?
issues with ours, but we're working through it with IT.
Okay.
Other than that, no, I don't think she didn't say anything to me.
Okay.
And I had a couple other questions on software for you before
Yeah.
the meeting ends. So if you can squeeze me in at some point, that'd be great.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think really that equipment need line items, just like where we are on budget. If there's I did get my IT based off my conversation with Jen. I do have that extra iPad for her. She can just reach out. We were able to secure that, but yeah, if anyone has equipment needs, or I consider software equipment. So, Ray, what are you guys
I
looking
think he
for?
might
Do you
be
have hard
frozen.
needs? Oh, Ray is, for all of us.
Ray is.
Nope. Wait for him to unfreeze. At least it's an engaging shot. Well, while we wait for Ray to unfreeze, I don't know, Ray, if you're frozen, do you want to try to turn off your video? Maybe we can hear your audio. Oh, okay, I think he's gonna bounce back. Any Anne-Marie or Chelsea Taylor, any other like equipment needs or thoughts for this year's grant funds?
Like, did you have any like thoughts that you had? I'm just curious what you were
No,
thinking.
not really. We did order some of those yellow public safety vests. I think, Taylor, you said you guys were all set in Southborough.
Yeah.
We did order some of those, so we'll look to distribute. They've been in a box in my office. It was the yellow safety vest with like the public health, the reflective vest.
Yeah,
I don't have anything in mind, but there is, inspectional budget, nursing supplies. So if there's other things that you're thinking of, it's, sooner than later. Our next meeting, I'll definitely have like total line item amounts and give you time to think harder about that. But it does look like we'll have some ability. All right, Ray, you're back. We're ready for software.
Yeah. Sorry. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden my computer went dead on me. So I tried to get back in. So on software, Jennifer's looking for a breakdown of costs for the housing, food, and pools.
Yeah.
And if the grant is what the grant's going to cover.
Okay.
I think that's the note she left me before she went across the street to the meeting.
Okay.
So that was it.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I can send that off. Isabella we have like the contract every year. So I think the one thing that just the cycle on the software is we paid at the beginning of the year for the whole year, right? So it's like the service. And so that contract has it broken down. And each of you get an invoice and I send that email where it goes, don't pay it, we pay it, but you each get one. So you should have a contract of what Westboro gets, but I can send you the master contract so you can see what we have. And
I don't know what she's looking for. She just said she wanted a breakdown because right now we were a beta tester for the pools.
Yeah.
So they're going to be adding the cost. So she didn't know if that's going to fall under the grant.
Yeah.
Because so I think she's trying to figure out because our budget has already been turned in for 2025.
Okay.
So if there's any small changes, she can make that, but she just wanted to get that as soon as possible.
No, I think it's something that we did budget, and I did speak to the relevant software folks about like their projected increase. They haven't increased it in our first 3 years, but now we'll be in the fiscal year 25. We'll be in the year 4 through 6. So we are going to see that amount go up. We're planning for that. And that's been budgeted in, but yeah, and I also think Relevant's been developing those newer modules, and I haven't even seen what that was price amount. So I can, Isabel, if we make that a follow-up, we can reach out to Mike Hicks and Relevant, and we can definitely send Jem whatever we have now, and then we'll look to plan for next year. So that'll be part of our budget planning process. So, Ray, even if you want to send it off sooner than later, the sooner you guys say like, hey, this is what we think we'll need, we'll start building that into our budget plan.
Yeah, and that's kind of where she's just looking at, because right now I'm the only pool person, so it's only on my iPad. But Maria just passed her CPO, so she's going to get it too. So we're going to add a second person on. So there's going to be a cost for a second one. So she just wanted to know what would be covered under the grant and what she has to put aside out of our budget.
Okay. Yep. We're happy to look into that more. And then I think there's also the ability to pull from the contact tracing. So same for Boylston as well, or Southborough. If you are thinking for next year, you might need additional accounts. The sooner we can get that, the better. And we'll start working that into our rough budget. We're thinking about that new nursing position and all the rest. So we'll look at that. Great. Anything else on equipment needs? Okay. While we still have a quorum, we do have our meeting minutes, and I'm looking, it was Heather Jen and Marie were our voting members. Chelsea was present. I don't know, Chelsea, you're good at the rule following. Do we have enough
Yep.
with?
You do.
Yeah, me, you, and Anne Marie in terms of voting these minutes. So,
Yep.
our draft minutes of September 20th were circulated by email by Isabella. Are there, I guess we'll do anyone for a motion to accept the meeting minutes?
I move that we accept the meeting minutes.
Okay, I'll second that. All those in favor?
Chelsea, aye.
Kristen Black, aye. Anne Marie Mustrom. Okay. All right, no other discussion. So, all right, our meeting minutes are good. All right. All right, great. Future meeting dates are listed as March 13th, June 12th, September 11th. That seems so far away. So those should be in those recurring meetings. Are we all looking for March 13th? Does that still look good? And we'll stay via Zoom? Okay. Gives everybody the most flexibility.
Yeah.
And then questions, discussion, anything else to come before the board? And Isabella, do you want to just briefly touch on the DPH update on interns? They're looking to double that number this year.
Yeah, of course. So I just went to a meeting today. So basically the program that Gabriella was part of, the DPH summer intern, they are, the application is live starting today. And last year, I think they had about 18 towns, and now they want to double that to about 30. So just thinking through, if we want to get an intern, I also encourage like any town who is willing to supervise an intern, apply to that. And you just have to kind of list out some projects that they could work on. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, or any ideas. Happy to send that along too.
And I think Isabella and I chatted briefly what we'd be looking from like a Northborough host on behalf of Greater Boroughs. Like Gabriella was one of these interns. It's amazing. They're paid by DPH. We don't even see the bill, you know, and they're here and they're high level interns. They're all working on masters for the most part, and have some strong background. So I think our descriptions for intern that we can think of at this point would really be around health communication, helping with the website, you know, further pushing out the food insecurity materials, sort of keeping all of that going, advertising, you know, public health events in our communities, and just being one to really get the website off the ground, which is a goal coming up. So we'll do that for sure, but you're all encouraged. You can have your own intern. They're definitely looking. It's a great experience, something to consider.
Okay, just on that, Isabella, can you send us or tell me where to find all the information for that? Because our town is very difficult to get interns, but if they know that somebody else is paying for it, maybe we'll have a shot at getting one. We've been trying for 4 years to get interns in here, and the town keeps saying, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. But if you can get us that information, maybe that'll help us saying, hey, look, DPH is paying for it. Let us get an intern and go.
And they cover the insurance as well. I understand they're like insured through DPH. They do the background checks. It's really like DPH's employees sitting in our town. And that's only been recent. I think this is like the 4th year I've hosted one, and they didn't pay in the past. So that's definitely new. So they probably never heard that before, and it's great. And they're supervised. They have their level at the state where they work with Julie Coco. She does a great job, and they sort of have a task in special webinars and an end presentation. So there's a level of engagement from DPH that really rounds out the whole experience. So it's very positive.
I will include that information in the email follow-up.
Perfect. Okay. So any other business? All right. Thank you, everybody, for hanging in and staying on a little bit longer here. So we'll just have to do a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Ray, second. All those in favor, roll call. Kristen Black, aye.
Ray Gothier,
Chelsea Malinowski, aye.
All right. And I think I saw Anne Marie's hand up there with an eye in the background. I heard her faintly. All right. Well, it's great to see everybody. Thank you so much. And
Merry Christmas.
be in touch.
Have a good day.
Bye.